This is super weird. I have to make sure that if anyone's tuning in right now, I feel really bad. No one's tuning in yet. But I just want you guys to know that you're listening to a silent timer. I apologize in advance that if you're coming in here and listening, and there's no audio right now. But we are about to start the show in about 15 seconds. So stand by, and then there will be sound.
Hello there.
Hey everybody, I am Danielato. Welcome into another episode of That Recap Show. Now, before we get into the episode, I just want to issue no spoiler alert at all. We're going to be going over everything that happened during this year's Star Wars celebration, everything that was revealed, everything that we're excited about that we can't wait to get into. There was a little preview of Rico there for a split second. We've got a lot of crazy things going on in the background. It's very warm in both of our locations. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, without further ado, let's start the show.
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.
Welcome into an all-new episode of That Recap Show's Happy Hour edition. We are live, so anything can happen, just like what has already happened. Without further ado, let me bring in the one, the only, it's Jon Jon Rico!
Hello there.
Hello.
Can I just tell you really, really quick, before we cheers, before we show our nice, cool beverages, it is making me that much more sweaty, the fact that you have a sweatshirt on right now.
Yeah. It's 62 here.
I hate you so much. It wasn't even 62 last night. It's like 90 degrees. And I am in an enclosed room. It is like probably 95 degrees in this room. I am drinking just...
I had to represent though, you know?
No, don't get me wrong. I want to know where you got that from because I think it's amazing and I want one.
Here's the deal.
Yes, give me a link later. I definitely want one, but I would be dying if I was wearing that right now. That is how warm it is. We're getting a weird heat wave on the East Coast. It's kind of ramped up all week. Like it's
almost like reverse. Usually you guys are colder.
Exactly. It's making me like angry that I was so upset when it was cold a couple of months ago. Like I was freezing all the time and I was using all this heat and everything. And now I'm like, why did I even say anything? Because it's so hot. And I refuse because we're supposed to have a storm this weekend. It's going to drop the temperatures back down a little bit. So I refuse to turn all of the air conditioners on and then just waste that amount of energy and then immediately just stop using them for like another week. So like, I'm like, I just want it to be, when it's consistently warm, then I'm going to turn all the air conditioners on. And I have way too many now. But yes, so it is very warm. Welcome in. Sorry, that was personal news. Yes. Anything can happen. It's our first show back, happy hour.
It's been a while. It's been a while. Yeah.
I know.
Yep. Cheers.
Cheers. We both got cans. Like I said, at this point, I am drinking just to cool down.
Yeah.
It is very warm in my office today. It doesn't help that the backing lights are a little warm too. That you're not.
Or that you have no fans, but also
Oh yeah, I got nothing in here. I am very ill-equipped. I moved in here in the winter though, so like I didn't know what it was gonna be. Like obviously I knew it was gonna be warm in here, but I didn't know, what the circulation and everything was gonna be like. So yeah, I'm learning by doing. Also, major update. So probably starting next week, I'm going to be using my nice new mic setup and my nice new audio interface setup. So my lovely voice will sound more crisp and clean.
Love that.
But yeah, I mean, Star Wars Celebration.
Boy.
Right?
Yeah.
So
what an event it was.
Yeah. It was funny too because it was happening. What day it was? It was last weekend. And I was gearing up for my finals for the band thing, and you're just like shooting messages. Oh my god, they just released this. Oh, they just showed this. And I'm like, I really want to be excited about that. But I'm like standing backstage, like super nervous and everything. And I'm just like
Yeah.
trying to watch and look at these trailers on my phone, just to like take my mind off of what was happening last
I had to
week.
stay on top of it, dude. I had to let you know.
No.
I let everyone know.
I appreciated it.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. And Pete going, "Who's Thrawn?" And then you go, "Well, he's his character." And this he goes,
Oh,
"No."
don't even get me started on that.
He goes, "No, obviously I know the character.
well,
Who is
mm.
playing him?"
We love Pete. We love you, Pete. You passive aggressive cutie.
But anyway, yes, there's so much to talk about. There's so much to get into. I mean, where do you want to start? Let's start with TV.
We
Because
gotta start with TV, man.
yeah, I feel like there's a clear distinction. TV, and I mean, I think it's going to be like we're gonna liken a lot of this to MCU and the way Disney or the way Marvel is using Disney Plus and in conjunction to movies and movie releases and stuff like that. So I guess the biggest comparison is that they're going to start, having the Disney Plus series have crossovers within the series, obviously, both live action and animated. But also, there's going to be cinematic releases that are going to have some of those characters share stuff back and forth too. So
Right.
and even video games.
Yeah. Star Wars has always been this one continuous timeline that you have to adhere to.
Mhm.
So no matter what they release is going to relate to the timeline in some way. Except for one of these projects that we'll talk about, Visions, I would say is
Right.
like the most out there. But that is the one you can kind of like play in your own sandbox more. But for the most part, Star Wars has always been like, how is this story going to serve into the bigger story that we've been telling for the last since 1976, so about 60 or 50 55 years, right? So it's pretty crazy.
But what I think is really cool, and I think it's just more of a recent thing, has been we've been seeing crossovers from animated series to live action series, and we've been getting that kind of thing, and I think that's been really cool.
But yeah, characters transitioning
Right.
from one medium to another has been the fulfilling part of being a Star Wars fan, I feel like, lately, for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, we could start alphabetically. I mean, it's the thing that I
Let's start with
honestly,
the big one. Yeah.
I think this is the one that I mean, I've been so excited for the Ahsoka series. I just gave it away. I've been so excited for the Ahsoka series since we had her appearance on Book of Boba Fett. I wanted to say The Mandalorian, but it was Book of Boba Fett, which is
it was Mandalorian first.
Oh, was Mandalorian?
Yeah,
first?
she showed up. That was her first appearance was on season 2 of The Mandalorian.
You're right.
And that's also where we got our first tease of Thrawn too. So like basically that episode was like her kind of like backdoor pilot, and then of course we did see her later on in Book of Boba Fett hanging out with Luke. But yeah, man, this freaking trailer we got, man, was everything. This is Dave Filoni's like live action like masterpiece. I feel like this is the show that he's been kind of like building himself up to be able to make, and boy, this trailer did not disappoint.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much in it. Like we could do, one of our recap videos just on this trailer. Like we do it on each trailer, but like especially this trailer, we can kind of go back and forth on everything from this. But I mean, this immediately right off the bat, we've got a lot of characters from Rebels in here, and we were talking about this before we signed in. I definitely have started Rebels, but now I have to go all the way through it now.
I do.
Because obviously I need the backstory for all of these characters. But yeah, I mean, that was the biggest thing I immediately grabbed from the trailer was even with my limited knowledge from Rebels, I recognized all of the characters from I have a Chopper Funko Pop somewhere.
Oh, Chopper. We love that sassy little droid, man. Yeah, right off the bat, getting to see like our first glimpses of all these characters in live action, from Sabine to Hera. Even going to The Mandalorian a couple weeks ago when we got to see Zeb for the first time. Yeah, there is so much to love about this, and kind of seeing how this show is going to build off of the finale of Rebels. They even have a shot in the trailer of them recreating that final scene of Rebels, which I thought was really cool. Of Ahsoka going to visit Sabine and kind of doing that whole thing, and kind of kicking off. Yeah, that actually from that scene, I feel like. But man, so seeing the Rebels crew again, from Hera to Chopper to Sabine, like all of these characters, even Ezra to in a holographic projection, just lets you know that they're really picking up where they left off, and this show is really like Rebels season 5 basically. But the one thing I'm most excited about from this trailer is one, we got our announcement that Lars Mikkelsen is confirmed to return as the live action Thrawn. And man, if you ever heard his voice in Rebels as Thrawn, he is phenomenal in that role. And like he's just perfectly cast. And I couldn't imagine any actor being able to replicate what he did in just a vocal role in that position. And getting to see that shot of him and just that one little shot of the back of his head in the trailer. I don't think I've ever seen a reaction to a character showing up in the series with just the back of his head, quite like Thrawn in the Star Wars universe. Because this guy, we've been talking about with in our Mando recap recently, like they're building up to this big end game event, really, and Thrawn, I feel like, is the Thanos of it. And it like this show, I feel like, is going to give us our real best taste of the character, and I cannot wait to see him embody this character on screen and really give us a really the casual fans like a sense of who Thrawn really is, and just kind of seeing this different side of the character. And there he is in Rebels, man. Like I can't remember what season of Rebels he debuts in, but he is a fascinating character going from back to the books. And even in the trailer, they actually drop a little nod to a Timothy Zahn book that he was in called Heir to the Empire. And Ahsoka even acknowledges him that like Thrawn is back as heir to the Empire. And like there it is. There's that great shot. And we're getting to see the magistrate from that episode of Mandalorian that Ahsoka debuted in, where they had that fight with the Beskar spear and the lightsaber. We'll get to see her back in the show, so we'll get to see how all that ties in. So yeah, this is like the really big MCU comparisons that we can make, because this is how it's all going to tie into the Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett and even Skeleton Crew, I imagine. But yeah, this trailer was chilling to watch. It was so good. So good.
Yeah. And I mean, this goes into a little bit of our recap from the latest episode of The Mandalorian, which was, the one right before the season finale, which we're getting next week. But we were talking about this a little bit and how, The Mandalorian is going to connect with Ahsoka, which is going to connect with all of these other shows. And we're going to see this build up kind of just like we did with kind of Marvel, the MCU phase 1 type of thing.
Absolutely.
Where we really built to like the Avengers level threat. And that's what I was talking about. Or the Endgame, I guess Infinity War Endgame even. So multiple phases where I was talking about it. And I was like, is Moff Gideon the equivalent of Loki, basically? Because we have, Moff Gideon kind of being a step ahead of our heroes right now in general.
And like Infinity War is going to be used as an example to show how powerful Thrawn really is, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's that.
Even in the trailer, we kind of, it's almost like that end credit scene from the end of the first Avengers, where he's just like, fine, I'll do it myself. And he grabs the Infinity Gauntlet, doesn't have any stones on it yet.
Yeah.
And that's the shot we got. I mean, it's just as chilling as that, having him kind of like just seeing the back of him walking into a room, basically. So
absolutely. And we even got a glimpse into some new characters that we're going to see that look like some new dark side characters. One played by Ray Stevenson, who I'm very excited to see in the show. He goes back to a lot of different shows. He's great in Dexter. He's also one of the three friends of Thor in the Thor franchise. Of course, he is Volstagg.
That's right.
So, but like when I look at this shot right here that we're showing on screen, if you see these little white lines behind them, it gives me a little reminder of the World Between Worlds from Rebels that Ahsoka is kind of familiar with. Also Ezra. But I wonder where this takes place. But one thing I also love is the orange lightsabers. And Filoni actually made a point to like talk about this, where he said like how in the classic trilogy that Vader's lightsaber kind of gave off this little bit of an orange hint to it. And so for like these new characters, they want to have more like a classic orange lightsaber look to them to give them like a little more difference. So I'm very interested to see like what these new characters are going to be. I think it was Balin and Shin, or Dalen and Shin. I think the new characters, but there's some really cool new characters to look forward to. And yeah, we're getting to see new dark side users in this part of the timeline is going to be a very interesting thing to see for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, just seeing everything build together, because I mean, we can really see kind of the care that's been put into, the the development stages of everything.
Filoni's hands are all over this thing.
And I mean, it does. I mean, we're going to do this multiple, or at least I'm going to do this multiple times, where I can liken it to, the early phases of the MCU, where they had the time to really build out each character before they brought everybody together, and it had more of an impact.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I really feel like we've done that. Like, obviously, I mean, we don't know the fate of Mando. If hopefully you're caught up, no spoilers, but hopefully you're caught up. We do not know what the fate of Mando is going to be going into the Ahsoka series yet, but hopefully when we get to this actual build up with Thrawn and all of this stuff, that Mando will be there for the fight, and maybe
sure.
with Dan. So that's what our opening.
How all these puzzle pieces are going to come together, right?
Right. So what do you want to do next? You want to do some visions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome.
I loved this trailer, by the way. Visions is kind of like one of those like underrated gems in the Star Wars world. If you watch season 1, it's the classic anthology series where you're getting these singular episodes telling these different stories that don't have anything to do with the main timeline, but they fit in the world. So it's something you can just sit there and enjoy on their own, right? And what I love about this new season is that it seems like they're pulling in more studios, different animations. Like look at this poster, by the way. Like when you see all the different styles of animation that you're going to see within this one season, how can you not be excited for that? You got this at the bottom. We have this great like Sith looking character who kind of gives off this like horror vibe. And then we have like this like almost like claymation Wallace and Gromit chicken run kind of feel, which I also really love. Like I think that's also a great comparison to make. But I really love what this show's kind of being able to do, where it's like in its own pocket and it can just tell stories that don't matter, but it's also like they serve the greater universe in some way, in some form. Like if you have Netflix, the first show I think of is a show called Love, Death, and Robots.
Yes.
It's kind of the same thing where they're taking all these different studios and taking all these different genres. Like this has, anime, claymation. There's one episode that gives me kind of like Spider-Verse animation vibes. Like there's some really cool things. One's kind of comes out like a Miyazaki film, So like, yeah, a lot of this stuff is exactly what I look for in Star Wars and telling its own stories and just kind of showcasing the art of different studios and stuff like that, right? So yeah, and this comes out on May 4th. Like this is like just right around the corner. So like we'll be ready for these episodes sooner than the other stuff that we're gonna see.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to just kind of absorb more Star Wars content through different studios like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is really cool because it gives you a taste of a bunch of different things. And
oh yeah,
that is the perfect comparison. The Netflix series. I was trying to remember the name of it. Like it was on the tip of my tongue.
I love that show.
Yeah, absolutely loved that show. And I do like how they have, just watching the trailer, you can see them jump through everything. And I even to the exactly what you said, it's not only stylistic differences between every episode and stuff like that. It's going to be like thematic differences too, because we have the episode that looks more like horror and stuff like that. And then we do have the claymation one that does have some jokes in the trailer and stuff like that. So it kind of seems like it is going to be a little bit more
appeals to everybody, which is what Star Wars is supposed to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very cool. What do you want to get to now?
So these last ones are pretty quick, but so Bad Batch is a good one. So we are confirmed that Bad Batch will get a third season, but it will also be the final season of the show. And I think it's pretty fitting for the character, or the characters, I should say. But also, I know we're a little bit behind on the recast, but if you know how the season ended, you know that like there's not a ton of room for the story to kind of grow from there. But I almost wonder if this, like, as opposed to Skeleton Crew, if this is like the show that might play into the Dave Filoni or movie event that we're kind of talking about here, because again, going back to our Mando recap, we're talking about all these different aspects of Star Wars that play into Moff Gideon's storyline and what could possibly play into the big story that they're telling going forward. And cloning is one of those things. And what is the big thing of this storyline is the cloning facility on Mount Tantus and Omega and all that. So like this could really be Filoni's way of kind of throwing in the Omega stuff and all that. So And one other, like a little smaller thing in here is that we were confirmed that we're going to get the return of Fennec Shan, played by Ming Nu Wen. Great character, of course, from Book of Boba Fett, and also she appeared in the first season of Bad Batch as well. So I'm very curious to see how she'll factor into this third season as well. And yeah, this show is really one of the biggest surprises to me, because it's a show that could have just been like this kind of like the show Star Wars Resistance, which is a pretty forgettable Star Wars TV show that came out. This one kind of was just kind of like a continuation of Clone Wars, and just kind of gave us that same animation style, and gave us some really important storylines at the same time too. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what they're gonna do to close out the storyline for this amazing batch of characters, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, it's been really fun recapping the
Yes.
show in general. I'm excited to do it like one more time for the next season. And yeah, I mean, just like you said, it's been. I mean, there's definitely been some episodes where both of us were just like, yeah, this was fun. Like,
Yeah, we had to get through them, but they
yeah,
now the season's over, I've seen them show a bigger purpose now. So it's one thing to see them as they are when they happen, but the payoff of them has proven to be really satisfying.
absolutely, absolutely. The next one I'm going to mention, because I'm just super excited about it, is no surprise, Andor.
Yes.
Second season. And did we get this is the final season, right? We got a
Oh
confirmation.
yeah, you're only
It's
confirmed
only
for
gonna
two
be
seasons of the show.
12 episodes for both seasons. So.
Yes.
And this is going to lead right into Rogue One. Like
Yes.
the meeting of
I mean, yeah, because we already know the end of his story, unfortunately. Or no, fortunately and unfortunately for Andor. But so some of the little details we learned about season 2 was that season 2 is going to take place about a year after the first season ends. And the first season ends on this great little kind of like cliffhanger where he's kind of standing off with Luthen on his ship, and Luthen kind of gives him this choice before Andor wants to kill him at that point, but he's like, okay, you give me this opportunity. How are we going to feed into this next season, basically? And that's a great little cliffhanger he can lead off at. But also, we learned that the season's going to kind of tell episodes in 3-episode blocks. So we got 4 years of story content, basically, where each 3-episode block is separated by a year. So I think that's going to be really fascinating, because they weren't very clear about the timeline of how these stories were broken down in the first season. So it's like, how long after he did this happen, and all that.
It seemed like it was very quick. Like it seemed like things were happening very quick. Like there was not a lot of time. Like maybe months, but not.
Yeah. I got that sense too. But the surprise for me of the whole Andor panel was that we learned that season 2 will actually feature the return of Andy Serkis as Kino Loy. So I'm like, how are they going to follow up on that amazing episode? To me, that's my favorite episode of the whole season, is that One Way Out episode. And
it's such a sad ending.
Oh man, yeah, it's a heartbreaking episode. Or at least supposedly for his character, but I wonder what's going to happen with him. What happened to Kino Loy after everybody escaped from Narkina 5 prison, right? Yeah. And I'm very excited to see how they're going to cover that. And of course, like, Andy Serkis is one of my favorite character actors of all time. So getting to see him in this role, and of course, he's famously known as Snoke. So get just more Andy Serkis in Star Wars is totally fine with me.
Well, I mean, he's been in everything. Like I feel
he's
like
amazing. He's so good.
We had him
put him in everything.
We had him, yeah. I mean, yeah, he
put him in new Harry Potter when it comes out.
We can talk about that in a different live.
We'll talk about that.
But anyway, yeah, I just like the tension that we have in Andor in general. Like
it's the Winter Soldier of Star Wars,
yes,
in my opinion. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Like it's constant tension, and you're just like because like we know ahead of time, and it's almost better kind of knowing the end result. So we get to see, like, we know the finish line, but we get to see these steps, and just like you said, the fact that we're going to have like chunks now, it can easily skip over some of the stuff that just doesn't, I guess, matter as much, but we get to see this progression in character.
Yeah, the stories matter.
Yeah, exactly. And then, I mean, inevitably it leads to, Rogue One, which is a phenomenal movie in and of itself. And
best of the Disney series, in my opinion.
Yeah. I'm very excited for this, and this is gonna after season 2 is over. I'm going to have to do a season 1, season 2, Rogue One. Just watch through all the
Oof.
way straight through.
Oh yeah.
I cannot wait.
Absolutely.
Maybe we'll do a live watch along. Maybe it will be, important enough where we can do a live watch along with everyone and we can really marathon everything. We can just chat as we're doing it. We'll just, we'll set aside a weekend and we'll just hang out and do that.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, do you want to talk about the Acolyte a little bit?
Yes, I do want to talk about the Acolyte a little bit. So first of all, one of the big things about this is that we got the first logo right here. So like this new kind of like logo revamp. First of all, it's a lot cleaner. We got a little bit more details of what we're about to see. We got confirmation of some of the cast of what their roles are going to be. Like Lee Jung Jae is going to be a Jedi Master and all that. But the fact that it's set in the High Republic is really fascinating to me, and something I can't wait to see. Like this is one era of the Star Wars timeline that like I'm not particularly familiar with. So getting to see what's going to happen here is going to be very fascinating. Daphne Keane, who we know primarily as X-23 in Logan, is going to be in the show, and I am very fascinated to see what she's going to be in this show. But yeah, I wonder what legacy characters we'll see in this. I know for a fact that we're going to see Juna Suetamo, who played Chewbacca in the sequel trilogy. He kind of replaced the original actor Peter. Oh God, what's his name? Peter or something.
I was gonna say I know it starts with Peter, but
it's Peter. Oh man, I feel so bad as a Star Wars fan. I'm gonna be Peter Chewbacca. But he will be playing Peter Chewbacca. Peter Mayhew. That's what it is. Yeah, Peter Mayhew. He will be kind of like playing a Wookiee Jedi in this series. So like, hey, you got Gunji in Bad Batch as your Wookiee Jedi in animation. Now you're gonna get one in live action, bud. So
I am all for Wookiee Jedis.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Dude. So like if you followed Star Wars Celebration and you saw people posting stuff from their phones, there's some pretty great shots from the series in that little sneak preview they gave. There's a pretty great one I saw of a line of people with lightsabers. So you're literally going to get to see Jedi in their prime in this High Republic era. I'm really excited to dive into the High Republic because I think the only thing we've really gotten are books and comics that kind of describe what they are. And this is going to be fun. Like, I hope we get some Yoda stuff because he's supposed to be a few hundred years younger here. So I wanted to see more of him in his prime, not walking around with a cane.
Right. The biggest question is he going to be talking the way he talked in the original trilogy, or is it your theory where he's like talking normally, like with the adult and stuff like that?
Yeah. Yeah, that would be very fun. But we have one more TV show to talk about, and I'm very excited for this because we're getting a second season of Tales of the Jedi, and boy, oh boy, I can't wait for this because I would say this is one of the biggest surprises, even animation wise, for me. Even though we got these 3 episode blocks about 2 different Jedi characters, Count Dooku and Ahsoka. I loved both arcs, and it really helps recontextualize both characters within the Star Wars lore, especially Dooku. I think Dooku's arc was phenomenal. And when you look at his story now within the Star Wars universe, it actually I think he's more of a tragic character than he's supposed to be. And I love that. But I was really curious to think what people we want to see covered in this season 2, if they do more than 2 or more than 1, but there's a few different ones I can think of that would be really fun to watch. But I'm curious to see which ones you want to see the most.
That's a really good question. Why don't you go 1 and then I'll pick 1?
Okay. One of the ones I can think of them doing is possibly a story about Ben Solo, Kylo Ren. I think that would be a really fun one to kind of cover. One, his journey as a student of Luke in that new Jedi Academy, and then what ultimately leads to this bond that they had, kind of like growing apart. So I think that would be kind of a fun little story. And also, I want to see them dive into more of the timeline between episodes 6 and 7. Right? I think that's cool. Important for them to do. Yeah. Especially, I want the sequel trilogy to get the Clone Wars treatment. Like, the way that the prequels weren't loved before and the way that the sequels kind of get hated on now, I want things to be recontextualized for the sequel trilogy in a way that makes people appreciate them later on down the road. So I think exploring more of Ben Solo's journey down that will be really important. But man, there's a few different great Jedi that you can really dive into.
I was just thinking that I'd be interested in is what if we got some stuff with Qui-Gon? Like I feel like that's a character.
I would love that.
I would really like to see more of, because I mean
you could dive into Dooku as well again, because they're that was his master.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would love that.
Because we could almost spring off of Dooku, since we had some Dooku already in season 1, so we could kind
100%.
of that block would almost start again with Dooku, and that would lead to Qui-Gon. And so the end of that block, if they do it the exact same format, the end of that block would be with Qui-Gon.
Yeah, and even going into what makes Obi-Wan become his apprentice too, like that transition, that would be phenomenal to watch. There's a few different ones. You got Plo Koon, who is obviously the Jedi that discovers Ahsoka later on or early in her life. Mace Windu is a person you can go into. There is a ton of different characters that you can dive into. Quinlan Voss, of course, has been mentioned a few times, and that's somebody you can kind of introduce the casual audience to before you introduce them in something, in that timeline where he's kind of like smuggling Jedi Padawans into, maybe if he comes into the next Mandalorian season when Keller and Beck smuggles Grogu and out of there. But there's so many great characters you can go into. I feel like, and it's also a show that Dave Filoni says like, it get me excited to do animation and stuff again. Basically, he was saying, because he's not 100% involved in Bad Batch, but when you watch Tales of the Jedi, you're like, yeah, I want to do more stuff like that. So I would love more stuff that adds more context to the lore like that. I love Tales of the Jedi so much.
Yeah, it's awesome to be able to kind of just think of the possibilities. It's exciting to see what they could do. And yeah, I mean, I think if we used the first season, so if we used Dooku to get into Qui-Gon, and then Qui-Gon to kind of just initially set up Obi-Wan, we could stop there, because I mean, obviously we had an Obi-Wan series, we had all this stuff and everything like that, but it could be a really cool, just a slow progression, just kind of get deeper into those characters. And and I'm all for Mace Windu. Like I would love to see some more Mace Windu.
Oh yeah, early Mace too. Yeah, like all these amazing Jedi from the Council early on would be fun to watch. Kia Diamundi, Plo Koon, like all these guys would be really, really fun to watch. And I feel like we could do a High Republic era stuff with Yoda. Like there's so many options for them to dive into with this. It'd be fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or even Tales of the Sith. Like, why not do Tales of the Jedi and then Tales of the Sith? So you can do some pretty fancy stuff on that end too.
Season 3, Tales of the Sith.
I want it, man. Early Palpatine stuff with Plagueis. Like, if that's your way to introduce that stuff, give me
Plagueis,
that. I want
Palpatine,
that 100%.
and then
off
Maul,
the top of the head when I thought about it too. Like, I want some Sith stuff.
Yeah, that would be cool. That would be cool. Season 3. Yeah, very cool.
There we go.
So we went TV shows. You want to do video game, then movies?
Yeah, you only got one video game thing to really talk about. So
yeah, but that's all you need. That's all you need.
Oh man, and we're only 2 weeks away from the release of Jedi Survivor, and boy, oh boy, what a final trailer to release. For the first of all, look at this image right here. Look at how beautiful the game looks just in that image right there. But man, there's so much in this final trailer that they put out there, from shots of a Rancor to Coruscant to freaking droidicas. Like there is so much in this the final trailer that they put in to displaying like the powers that Kala has in this, and him working with Marin, the Night Sister. Like, look at that. That's a phenomenal shot of those two, like using their powers to, like, I don't know if they're putting something together or taking something apart, but whatever they're doing, I'm here for it. But kind of seeing like, I don't know if you guys watched the trailer watching this, but this shot right here, Cal just straight up uses the Force to yeet a scout trooper off of a scout bike, a speeder bike, and into like a ship going forward towards him. I think it's that ship right there at the top. So Yeah, there's some pretty gnarly stuff you're gonna be able to do with the Force here, as well as like some cool tag team combat moves. And boy, this game looks like a massive step up from the first one. There's Coruscant in all its glory. And being a PS5 owner myself, I can't wait to see the next gen graphics of this game, because it looks like one of the most beautiful Star Wars games to be ever released, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, what's really cool about the next gen like engines and stuff like that is we're getting so close to them being kind of almost like, you know, this this in between live action and animation. Like,
Yeah.
because I mean, that's where we are with Star Wars too, because we have so many animated characters crossing over into live action and stuff like that. But I mean, Cal is a real actor, and it's modeled after him.
Yeah,
So like we
great
could
actor.
very easily have him jump into one of these live action series or
It's what
a
people are
movie.
waiting for.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
but unlike in the past where we had these voice actors that, didn't resemble their characters, or the characters, the game like graphics weren't
Yeah.
up to date or up to really good, qualities of facial features or anything like that.
E. Bradley Baker is not showing up as the Bad Batch anytime soon.
Exactly. But my point is, like, a lot of these next gen games are doing that. They're
Man.
capturing the real images of their characters. So we're almost casting actors to really be these characters. And then it makes it so much easier to cross these storylines over. And it's a real possibility we can see Cal in some of these, live action things moving forward.
Yeah, a lot of people feel like wondering if we're going to see him in like The Mandalorian or something like that going forward. And if they decide to go into more of these TV shows kind of taking place between episode 3 and 4, like Andor, there's a better chance you could see him in that, because we don't know. I feel like they're using these games to tell his main story.
Right.
But if we know that he's going to survive past certain timelines, then we can start to introduce him as. I really do think that they're ramping up to like making him a bigger presence so that we can bring him into the TV shows, right?
I hope so.
Yeah, exactly. Because Cameron Monaghan is a really great actor. If you watch Gotham, he was a phenomenal Joker, like like almost better than I ever expected to be, and he played multiple versions of it, and also he's known for his role on Shameless as well.
Yep.
But this guy is a really great actor, and the fact that they use his actual likeness for the role is something to show that I think they want to. If they were to have him in the shows or movies at some point, he's got to be the guy. And we've seen the BD droid in live action, I think, on Mandalorian already.
Yep,
And one thing I love about this game also is that they're making improvements upon the first game that I think are necessary, especially customization wise. I'm a big customization guy, and the fact that you'll be able to change like the look of his face and beard, like according to how you want the character to look, as opposed to just changing his poncho, it's really cool. But also kind of getting to see the way that the other characters are evolving. We got Marin, the Night Sister, which of course, like, a cool version of the lore that you're bringing in to, the Dathomir stuff, the Maul's homeworld, and the Night Sisters, and all that witchcraft kind of feel, and the way that they're kind of able to combine their powers in that one scene is really cool. Oh man, I wish I could remember the name of that pilot alien, like Kreese or Skreese or whatever his name was, but he's a really great character. And then Seer Junda has a really different looking role in this. Like, she's bald now, and she looks like the Jedi librarian, Jocasta Nu from the Jedi Temple, where she's looking over a lot of this data banks from whatever kind of history they're kind of given to her. But she was kind of considered Cal's master at that point, and so I'm very curious to see, where Cal's journey is going from here, and the new adversaries that they're kind of bringing up, because there's a few different characters. There's a force sensitive character that's kind of in the back tank that he's kind of see him facing off with, but there's also like this a character that looks like the Inquisitor from the Rebel series and all that. Here's another cool character he's playing. That kind of looks like the bounty hunter characters that you faced in the first games, but
Right.
these fun little different opponents that you to face in the video game. Basically, like what technology they have that hasn't been introduced in Star Wars before, and how can we make it really fun for you to fight with the lightsaber burst. So I'm very curious to see what this character is like right here. But Man, 2 weeks. We're only 2 weeks away from this, and I can't wait to start streaming this game on my Twitch.
I'll be watching. I will definitely
yeah.
be playing too. I think I need to start. I need to play a redo of Fallen Order.
Right.
I played
And
it. I played all the
and I
way
just pre-ordered this game with the collector's edition, so I'll get the lightsaber with it.
Oh, you got
Yeah,
it?
I'm getting myself a Cal Kestis lightsaber, and I can't wait, baby.
How much does that run you?
A little bit. A little bit. My
Look.
first collector's edition, so I,
Right, you got it. I mean, you picked a good game to do that on.
Yeah.
We
So I have a buddy who has the first half of Cal Kestis lightsaber that he got from like Disneyland, and he said that the collector's edition will connect, and you can make the double-sided with it. And I was like,
nice.
Yeah, dude, it's just like nut.
Well, I mean, you picked a good game for it. If you're gonna do it, look, this is all I want. Like,
I got it in my freaking arm, man.
Yeah. Look, we may not make a single cent with our recap videos or our live streams or anything like that. But if we ever were to, all I want to do is be able to make like enough money that we can order the collector's editions to some of the games that we want to. Like that's it. I would be so happy if that's all we could do. And that's I mean all we could do. If that's what we could do eventually just from residuals from the show and stuff like that. By the way, you can find all of our episodes in audio form at all the podcast outlets. We need more podcast listeners because at a certain point when we get like I think it's 20 regular listeners and subscribers on Spotify, we can start running ads.
True. The more you listen to us, the more you help us.
Yeah, we can start doing live reads. I am so excited to get to that number just for to have them send us reads that we can read. Because I want to read, I want to do like HelloFresh. And I use HelloFresh. Like I want to start doing that so badly.
Manscaped hit us up. Sorry.
I'm so excited to do that. I can't tell you how excited I am. Because just it'll bring me back to the days of, producing for MMA Junkie Radio, where I used to send them live copy and they're like, again. And I'm like, yeah, I'm really sorry. SiriusXM wants you to, they're sponsoring this segment, blah, blah, blah. And they'd have to read the live copy. I'm so excited to get to that number. It's not that high of a number, but that's what they're going to start doing. And that's help us get to that number. That's all I want to do is to have to read live reads. Yeah, I just think that would be funny
100%
to do. So, but anyway, so we did TV shows, we did video games. You want to get to the movies?
Let's get to the freaking movies.
Yeah! Movie time! All right. So,
I'm going to go top to bottom on this one.
I want you to go top to bottom on this one.
Because really, it kind of goes like timeline-wise with it. So, we finally got our first announcement of the new Star Wars movies that will finally be coming out. And, every celebration we get updates about movies and they end up changing their mind and things happen and things just don't work out. We got the announcement of Patty Jenkins' movie that was going to happen. That's not happening anymore. We're still waiting to hear about Rian Johnson's trilogy, and they haven't completely closed the door on that, but we haven't heard anything else on that. Taika Waititi's movie, still haven't heard anything else on that. But we have confirmation on 3 movies so far, and that was the 3 that they decided to showcase at this year's celebration. The first I want to cover is the movie by James Mangold. And the first thing I want to tell you a little bit about James Mangold a little bit here. First of all, he's the man responsible for an amazing movie called Logan. So the swan song of an amazing character that lasted over 20 years. They gave that job to him. And, Lucasfilm saw that and they decided to do something else. They decided to go, hey, we want you to direct our swan song for another character. That character is Indiana Jones. And that movie's coming out later this year. And I'm going to tell you right now, that movie looks very fucking good. It looks very good.
What's crazy is I am instantly back in, even after Crystal Skull. Like, as soon as we got the teaser for the new Indiana Jones, I was like, oh my God.
I heard he was directing, and I was like, there's one guy who can give a character his welcome goodbye. That's the guy to do it.
Here's what I want at the end of that movie, though. Just as a side note, I
Yeah.
want him.
That was
Just
also
in
part of Celebration too, Indiana Jones.
I want him to ride off into the sunset. Like I don't want like a Logan ending, which was fitting for the movie. Don't get me wrong. It
I
was a
think it will.
perfect ending for Indiana Jones, but perfect ending for Wolverine for Logan. But for Indiana Jones, just having a shot of him riding off and the sun like setting type of thing, I think would be an amazing way to end. Like, because you don't know, you're just like, oh, he's off to another adventure. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the
Yeah.
legend of Indiana Jones should live on, even if they do something.
Pass the torch.
Yeah, even if they pass the torch and have more in universe content for Indiana Jones and stuff like that, just to have his character as a send off, just him riding off into this giant sunset of it.
Yeah.
I would love that.
And another thing I love is that the actress playing his is it goddaughter, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, also played L337 in Solo. She played the droid that became the heart
Millennium
of the Millennium
Falcon.
Falcon. So she'll always have a tie to Harrison Ford or the Millennium Falcon in some way, which I love that too. But to go back on what James Mangold's been doing, he's still got a couple major projects ahead of him, even before I think maybe Star Wars. I'm not sure like the timeline of what all these movies are going to come out, but he's going to do DC Swamp Thing. He's also going to do a Bob Dylan biopic with Timothy Chalamet playing Bob Dylan, which actually sounds phenomenal. Growing up, I always thought Adam Sandler was going to be my Bob Dylan in a movie, and it didn't happen because I actually thought that would have been an amazing dramatic role for him. But a Bob Dylan biopic with Timothy Chalamet directing or starring and James Mangold directing sounds amazing. And now he's doing this Star Wars movie, which is described as like the dawn of the Force and also like the first Jedi. And it's set 25,000 years before episode 4, he says, and he's described 2 very epic films as inspiration for what this movie is going to be, and that one of them is Ben-Hur, which is also a classic movie, and also Cecil B. DeMille's 10 Commandments movie from like the 20s, which is amazing. So he basically wants to make these like biblical epic for the Jedi movie, which makes sense because Jedi is a religion in itself. So how does the discovery of the Force happen, and how does the first Jedi come to be? And I think that inspiration is perfect for what you want to tell for the story. And I think he's a perfect director to tell that kind of story with. He's someone that's been able to wrap up stories so well. I want to see him cover the beginning of someone's story really well.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm very excited for that.
Yeah, same. I mean, I trust him. I look, I'll trust him a whole lot more once I see Indiana Jones. But going off of Logan, I think
Logan's more than enough.
We are in good hands. Exactly. I just don't want to get ahead of myself because it's like, look, we're doing Logan, then we're doing Indiana Jones, then we're doing Star Wars. Like, let's see what happens. But.
Oh, absolutely. I want to look up a little bit more of his stuff right now, but I was
just
just thinking
while
about.
You look that up, you know what I was just thinking about? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I interrupted you.
Oh, no.
Harrison Ford is pulling the hat trick under Disney. He's Star Wars, Indiana Jones, which it's small wing, but still a wing of
Oh, I know you're about to bring up
MCU. So we got Marvel too. So Harrison Ford is
president, our new president.
He's gonna be Red Hulk.
Yeah.
He's. I mean, I am super excited to see him as Thunderbolt Ross in Thunderbolts, and to see if we get a Red Hulk out of Harrison Ford. It's very funny to think that Harrison Ford wasn't even supposed to be Han Solo. He was working on construction for sets for the original episode 4.
Yeah.
And just happened to be, to be helping out at the right time. And George Lucas pulled him in type of thing. So, and now fast forward to this, and we've had him as, Han Solo, Indiana Jones, and now Thunderbolt Ross. It's going to be, it's going to be intense. It's pretty cool. And yeah, I am all for. I know we're talking about we're going back and forth between Star Wars now. We're going into MCU and stuff like that. But Harrison Ford as an actor, I've always liked everything he's done.
Mhm.
And I'm very excited for Indiana Jones. I'm very excited for his send off to that character, and then for him to start an MCU character at
Absolutely.
the same time, type of thing.
Yeah.
Because I was really bummed out. Like I think Han Solo, like when I was a little kid, I was like, oh, Luke Skywalker's awesome. He's my favorite character. Like watching the original trilogy and stuff like that. But I think overall, if I were to pick one Star Wars character to kind of just be all end all favorite character, I think I would pick Han Solo. And it really has to do with Harrison Ford's performance of Han Solo. And I was really I was bummed out that he had to die. Like, I understand, but I didn't want him to die.
I think he served his purpose in the sequel.
Oh, he
too,
did.
for sure.
Yeah.
But also, I think getting to see him fleshed out in those earlier, I think we need to see more of what he's doing in those earlier years, right? And so I'm looking back at James Mangold's filmography now. He did Walk the Line, the Johnny Cash biopic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he did that. He did 310 to Yuma. He did the Wolverine, which is the Japan set.
Yep.
Wolverine. So he did both the last two Wolverine movies, and he did Ford v Ferrari. So which is all.
I never watched that. Was that good?
He's got a really good resume of solid films, and I feel like, who did the Crystal Skulls movie? Was that Spielberg? Whoever it was, forgettable. I think this is like the director you get.
I wanted to be so excited for that movie too, because they were like, because even when they were hyping up that movie, they were like, we're gonna pass the torch to Shia LaBeouf, and it's gonna be like, we're gonna have years of other Indiana Jones movies that are gonna be
the torch.
Yeah, they were like, it's gonna be in universe and all this stuff, and then it's just like super weird, and we got Indy in a refrigerator during a nuke. Like, I don't understand. I don't understand. I may have to go back and watch it again just to understand it.
I don't know, but I almost just subject themselves to that. But,
well, I'm a glutton for punishment. So
yeah, you are.
Anyway,
but so yeah, James Mangold is our first director confirmed for a early Star Wars timeline movie. The next one we got confirmed was the great Dave Filoni, and we've kind of been talking about this throughout the episode already, but this is going to be the movie that kind of wraps up all these TV shows into one big event, cinematic event. So we're essentially getting like our Star Wars MCU / like Infinity War stuff, like with, I feel like Thrawn being the Thanos of this event, right? Like how do you feel about this, Danny?
I am beyond excited for this one, because I want to see. I mean, obviously, like I said, spoiler alert, Mando's in trouble right now. And we need to see how, the season 3 finale pans out for the future of Mando and Grogu and Bo-Katan and everything like that. But I am so excited to potentially see, Mando, Grogu, Bo-Katan, Ahsoka, maybe even Cal. Like, we could get an Avengers assembled, like everything leading in together in live action.
Yeah.
This is the thing I did want to ask you, and I am so sorry I'm asking you about it on a live when you don't have a chance to actually think about an answer and stuff like that. There was talk that, like, Filoni's universe, the
Filoniverse,
the Filoniverse, as we'll dub it, is that aside from the original, like the trilogy,
sequels?
Yeah, the sequel trilogy type of thing. Is this resetting the timeline? Is this a split on the timeline? Like, I try to read as much as I can online, and sometimes I don't know if it's real. I don't know if it's other people hoping that what they're saying is real. But there's a lot of stuff. There's going to be a point that we're going to hit where time is crossed over, and it's going to be confusing as to why the sequel trilogy happened when these characters and the events are happening also at the same time.
Right.
And so one person that I was reading about online, they were saying, Well, yeah, Filoni's whole thing is like this branch timeline where somebody didn't die, and so things progressed differently than they did in the main trilogy timeline, basically sequel trilogy timeline. So there's a branch after the original trilogy was there was the branch then type of thing. And so that's what they're saying is why like the possibilities are endless of what could happen. But I'm wondering if eventually, since the popularity has grown so much with these characters, live action Ahsoka and with Mando and with Grogu and all of these other characters that are kind of being brought into this live action fold and stuff like that, if they're going to try to not retcon, I think that's the wrong word for it, but try to figure it out an in-universe way to kind of correct it so that it makes sense on the other end of the sequel trilogy type of thing. Like maybe it's been happening all along, but it was happening somewhere else. So the sequel trilogy could happen still.
Well, this is what I was talking about with the whole, Clone Wars recontextualizing the prequels thing, right? Like I was talking about in episode 9, we had that one point where, at the end of the movie, spoiler, if you never saw episode 9, it's been a few years, so second. But there's a point where it basically they had their Return of the Jedi moment where like the entire galaxy comes and helps them out, right? Lando, everybody. And I feel like there's a point right there where you're going to see where everyone's going to come in and kind of help this big battle overall. So we might see some of these stories survive to go past between this episode 7 or episode 6 and 7 timeline that we're seeing. But I feel like everything that we're seeing right now in the TV shows is meant to recontextualize everything setting up episode 7. So we're seeing like the return of the Emperor through the cloning technology.
Right.
We're seeing the rise of the First Order through Moff Gideon, Thrawn, and all these little Imperial remnant sectors that are kind of like building power as things goes on, right? So whether or not these characters live on to see the First Order remains to be seen. But we're seeing how the New Republic and their negligence has played a factor into the First Order's rise, especially with Elia Kane being somebody that's working within her ranks, and also kind of seeing how they can play within these stories within the Empire and the Mandalorian stuff because it takes place on their own little circle of the galaxy, right? Like Mandalore and all that. But how it's going to play into the bigger story is the stuff that they have to figure out how to tie those threads. Like the one thing I think about is how they figured out how to get Grogu out of the Jedi Academy slaughter picture. Basically, like, hey, he met Luke, but he ended up giving Grogu his own choice, and he's not there when they get slaughtered by Kylo Ren, right? So there's all those little things they're kind of looking to tie up, and I think Filoni is someone that's smart to look at again, I'm going to bring up something from the last episode, the Praetorian Guards from episode 8, like how they were able to introduce those as a formidable kind of a adversary to the good guys of the galaxy. But yeah, I think they're going to be doing that for years to come, is doing stuff to recontextualize the sequel trilogy, just like Star Wars, Clone Wars did, and Rebels did, and all that.
Yeah, and I mean, I like that, and I hope they do, and I hope they do it, as good as they've been doing it, I guess, for that time period. Mm-hmm. I hope they do it for this time period because, I want to like the sequel trilogy, and, there's stuff I do like in the sequel trilogy and stuff like that, but the characters, I guess, of the Filoniverse, I've really, really enjoyed. And so I would, yes, and I would really like to see them kind of interact with some of the people from the sequel trilogy and kind of see events happen, I guess, on the side, maybe would be kind of cool.
Absolutely. And, I think that transitions perfectly.
Exactly. That's
our next perfect topic, which is that our third director will be Charmin Obaid-Chinoy, who she's an Oscar-winning director or kind of just whatever. I honestly don't know where her whole film background is, but she's won an Oscar, and she has been tasked with kind of telling the story of bringing back Rey to the Star Wars universe, and that was a great little surprise they brought out to Star Wars universe is the fact that they brought her back out into the onto the stage, Daisy Ridley, I should say, and the warm reception that she got from the crowd was amazing to see, and yeah, and the fact that this story is going to be set 15 years after the Rise of Skywalker,
Right.
and it will follow her rebuilding the Jedi Order based off of the books that she got off of Luke on Octo. So basically, kind of reinforcing that like the Journal of the Wills kind of a thing that was set up in those stories before, and also building up a new threat that's going to be going up against them, right? Because you can't have this story without some kind of threat for them to face off against. But yeah, they're finally going to start diving into what happened after episode 9, and the fact that they were able to get Daisy Ridley back for this role is, I think, really crucial. And no, I have to give myself a little nod here because I love myself some Rey. I'm excited to see her back in the Jedi form. So yeah, let's give me some more Daisy Ridley doing some yellow Jedi lightsaber stuff. Ooh. More colored lightsabers, please.
You're just you're just getting me to want to spend more money, which is a dangerous thing because I've been so satisfied with just sticking to Marvel props. Like I do have a couple lightsabers, and I do have I have my Mando helmet, which I have to have always. I have I have the Mandalore, the Mythosaur mug. And
look at that
stuff like that. But like, man, if we're gonna have another Rey appearance, I might have to get the Rey lights. There's so much.
There's so much. Look, I'm like right now with when she was wearing the thing on Jakku.
Except you look more like a pilot.
Okay.
you look way more like a believable X-wing pilot.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah, I mean, I'm really interested to see the outcome of Filoni's movie and to see if that plays a bigger picture on like you said, kind of changing the stuff around the sequel trilogy, or if like maybe it's gonna happen, some weird explanation, and we're gonna have some of these characters, like even what happened with Thrawn and Ezra. Like, what if we have something that happens in the live action at the end of the Filoni's movie, and then all of a sudden they're able to be used after the sequel trilogy?
Well, there's one character I could think of that makes the most sense to bring into Rey's movie. That's Grogu.
I like Grogu. I was thinking
age-wise, because he ages. So him being alive 20 plus years past the story of the Mandalorian is something that I can see happening. It makes the most sense to have him be an integral part, especially because people are like, why wasn't he around when Luke was around in the sequel trilogy? It's like, well, maybe it's because he found his purpose and then he decided to go back after the events of Mandalorian. And I feel like watching Grogu and Rey work together would be a pretty fascinating thing to watch.
It would be Grogu, talking Grogu at that point too.
Exactly.
So
Yoda became a Jedi Master at like 100 years old, so it's like it's very.
It's got 50 years.
That he's got plenty of time.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's really cool to kind of sit. It's a great time to be a Star Wars fan, and you could have said that many other times too, but just with what they've been doing and what they've been able to do between animation to live action to video game tie-ins to everything like that, I feel like has really helped flesh out originally it was just like, oh, it's really cool that they had this the prequel trilogy, and then we still had this gap, and then they did Clone Wars, and then we got Rogue One, which for me was like Rogue One for me was even bigger because I didn't appreciate the sequel or the prequel trilogy as much. But when they did Rogue One to lead right into the original trilogy, which will always be near and dear to my heart, I was just like completely blown away. Like I remember seeing it. I've always loved it. And then when they brought it back and they went to Andor, which is going to lead right into that, it's so cool to see that. And then on the other end of the original trilogy, we've got you know, the Mandalorian, the Book of Boba Fett. We've got all the stuff that's like, it's really just kind of like, you know, showing all of these webs of different things that, you know, are in universe in this time frame that we remember and stuff like that. And I mean, to it, you know, the same extent, we had the Obi-Wan series, which led also into, you know, the original trilogy and around the prequels and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm excited to see it on the other end with the sequel trilogy and all of this stuff and kind of trying to build that side of things too. So it's really cool.
Yeah, I can't wait. We got a lot of great stuff coming out of Celebration, and boy, it's a great time to be a fan.
Absolutely. Can I do one thing before we go?
Do it.
Yeah.
Chrissy, wake up! I don't like this! Chrissy, wake up! Hey, hello? Time to wake up, time to wake up. Can you hear me? Wake up, Chrissy! I don't like this! Chrissy, wake up!
Hey. That's the show. That's how we end the show. That's how we end the show.
Hello there.
As always, what did you think of Star Wars Celebration? What was your favorite part? What are you most excited for? Are you going to be playing Jedi Survivor as soon as it comes out? Are you super excited for May the 4th? What else can we get into? Are you super excited for the new Indiana Jones movie? Everything. The sky's the limit from the Star Wars Celebration. There's so much to talk about. There's so much to unfold. And we cannot wait for the season 3 finale of The Mandalorian happening next week. We will be doing the recap as soon as we can to get that up so that everybody can watch. So if you aren't caught up, please catch up. Episode 7 was amazing. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to hear about all of our audio and video podcast releases. And like I said, we need more followers on our podcast outlets. So Spotify, especially, I guess. If we get up to 20, I think we get to be doing live reads, which I just think would be absolutely ridiculous. Not even for making money's sake, but just to be able to do live reads that they're sending us, I think would be hilarious. So help us get to that goal. And as always, don't forget, we are back. Stay posted to all of our social medias to hear about all of our latest releases. And I guess have a great weekend, everybody. Bye, everybody!
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.